This presentation will provide an overview of what to look for when conducting a low-stress bikeability assessment, presented by the Institute for Public Administration at the University of Delaware. This video is part of the pre-assessment training needed to conduct an audit of your community's low-stress bikeability conditions. Best practices and common pitfalls will be highlighted for all of the conditions that you should be evaluating throughout your audit. Please review the entire report on IPA's Complete Communities website for more information. There are many types of facilities that can be provided for cyclists. They range in the amount of protection and separation from traffic that they provide. Here you see examples of facilities that provide little or no separation from traffic. In the first picture, you can see that there are no bike facilities provided. Instead, cyclists must travel directly in the flow of traffic. There are no barriers or signage to alert drivers as to their presence. In the second picture, you can see the Sharrow image painted on the road. This image alerts drivers that cyclists have the right to use the full lane, but do not offer any type of physical protection. The last picture shows an unmarked shoulder. This provides space where cyclists can travel separated from cars. However, some cars may enter this shoulder to park or complete turns, creating hazards for cyclists. All three of these types of facilities are not inviting to people who are interested but concerned cyclists. The facilities shown on this slide are much more inviting to all levels of cyclists. Bike lanes distinguish space between cyclists and automobile traffic. Protected bike lanes make that separation more distinct. Protection can be in the form of installed barriers such as curbs, poles, or fences, or it can utilize temporary or passive structures such as painted buffers. Lastly, separated bike paths are the most protective type of facility. They are completely removed from the roadway, yet follow the same route. The width of a bike lane is a very important factor when considering comfort and safety. In the first picture, you can see a bike lane is present, but it is very narrow. This does not provide enough distance between passing cars and bicycles. The ideally accepted width of a bike lane is between 4 and 6 feet. However, if the road has very heavy bike or automobile traffic, car parking, or two-way bike traffic, then the facility must be wider. In the picture on the left, cyclists are expected to use the sidewalk to cross the bridge. However, there is no way for cyclists on the far side of traffic to cross the street to access the sidewalk. It is much better to have easy access of bicycle facilities and clear markings so that everyone knows where they are located. Ensuring there's a safe place to leave your bike at your destination is just as important as the roads you use to get there. Some racks are not useful. As shown in the first pictures, tires do not fit through the space provided and it is difficult to lock a bike. Instead, parking should be easy to use, where bikes can be placed against racks and locked in two places. The most secure option are bike lockers. These are especially useful in areas where people lock their bikes for long periods of time, such as near transit and employment centers. The location of bike parking is very important. When facilities are placed out of the way of meaningful destinations, they are useless. Also, if they are placed too close to buildings or other obstructions, bikes cannot be placed against them. Instead, it is better to ensure bike parking locations are close to places that people frequent. Bike racks should be close to restaurants, shops, community centers, schools, and other destinations. Also, they should be easy to approach by bike, so no stairs or other obstacles need to be navigated. Drainage gates can pose a serious hazard to cyclists. If the gaps run in the same direction that the cyclists are traveling, tires can easily get stuck or fall through the gaps, resulting in serious injury. Instead, it's better to place the gaps perpendicular to the cyclist's direction of travel, or greatly reduce the size of the gaps. The best alternative is to place the drainage gates entirely out of the way of bicycle facilities so that no one ever has to travel over them at all. Car parking must be considered very closely when trying to design low-stress bike facilities. When car parking is located too close to bike lanes, there is a serious threat of dooring, where drivers open their door in the path of a cyclist, resulting in an accident. it is much better to provide a wider parking or bike lane so that the door impact zone can remain clear. The best type of design allows for car parking to be located between the bicycle facility and traffic lanes. In this situation, parked cars act as an extra barrier, providing protection from moving cars. Also, the threat of dooring is greatly reduced because only the passenger side of the vehicle opens into the bike lane. It is important to make sure that bicycle facilities are clear of any hazards, regardless of whether or not they are placed in the area on purpose. When cyclists are forced to travel close to walls or high curbs, there is always a threat that bike pedals can hit the side, causing an accident. It is also a very uncomfortable way to travel. Conversely, curb design that accounts for cyclist mobility creates a much safer and welcoming environment. Rounded curbs allow for gentle impacts and easier places to navigate. The placement of bike facilities is very important to consider. Even if nice facilities are constructed, but not located where people want to travel, they will not be used. Bike facilities should be close to homes, schools, and desired destinations such as employment centers, mixed-use areas, and commercial areas. Abrupt endings are inconvenient and dangerous and prohibit the connectivity of a low-stress network. When facilities end with no warning or offer no alternative route, cyclists are stranded and must bike in traffic. Oftentimes, bike lanes are taken over by automobile turning lanes at intersections, which result in dangerous interactions between cars and bikes. It's important to note if bicycle facilities continue on both sides of an intersection. When facilities are discontinuous, cyclists lose a safe place to travel, and cars may not be expecting bikes to enter the traffic lane. Instead, it is much better to have bike facilities clearly marked throughout the entire intersection, ensuring there is always space for them to travel. The conditions of a road are also very important to consider when evaluating if a bike route is low stress and welcoming to all users. If the facility is not smooth and has lots of potholes, the ride becomes highly uncomfortable and dangerous. Tires can easily turn into traffic or cause cyclists to flip over their handlebars. Instead, all bike facilities should be smooth and well maintained. Bike facilities should remain free of obstacles. When a bike lane is used as storage for garbage bins or not cleared of snow, leaves, rocks, standing water, garbage, or broken glass, the facility becomes unusable. Instead, the facility should be consistently swept to maintain a safe and usable environment. The speed of automobile traffic should be taken into consideration when evaluating a low-stress bike network. Cars must travel at an appropriate speed so that cyclists can safely share the road and travel without fear. Driver behavior is also a key factor in creating a low-stress cycling environment. When drivers engage in bad behavior, such as following too closely, not providing enough space when passing, or honking, the roadway becomes dangerous and unwelcoming. Instead, drivers should provide at least 3 feet of space when passing and allow cyclists to operate on the road free from harassment. When cars infringe on bike lanes for any reason, whether to park, stop, or turn, cyclists are put in danger of being sideswiped or cut off. Also, it sends a message that people driving cars are more important than people on bicycles because drivers are able to take over space that was intended for cyclists. Increased visibility of cyclists make bike facilities safer and more welcoming for users of all comfort levels. When trees, poles, and tight corners obstruct drivers' lines of sight, cyclists are put in danger. Instead, mirrors can be placed in strategic locations to increase visibility. Ideally, design will prioritize visibility, where all obstructions are removed and everyone can clearly see all travelers at an intersection. It is important to have well-lit bicycle facilities so they can safely be used after dark. Painted marking should be used in areas of high traffic volume or poor sight lines to alert all passing drivers and cyclists of potential danger. This can come in a variety of styles, including full or partial green paint coverage. Marking movements through intersections with light or paint is also highly beneficial for visibility. Signs with yellow backgrounds serve as warnings to ask drivers and cyclists to pay attention to unexpected hazards. Signs with white background areas are regulatory in nature, meaning that they notify drivers and cyclists to laws that must be followed. Both are important to ensure that everyone is aware of proper safety protocol and road conditions. When unique conditions need to be brought to the attention of cyclists or drivers, a variety of warning signs and mirrors can be used. This will increase safety and order at all intersections and entrances. Traffic signals should account for cyclist movement at intersections. This can be done by using short signal phases to reduce the amount of time a cyclist needs to wait, creating bike-specific signals, or using green wave timings. This is when traffic lights are timed to the average speed of cyclists so they can maintain their momentum and not have to stop at red lights. This is especially useful through long corridors and in hilly terrain. Conflicting movements where bikes and cars are trying to operate in the same space simultaneously should be avoided. Instead, traffic signals, timings, and signage can allow cyclists to move through an area while all other motorists are stopped. Momentum is very important when cycling. When there are unnecessary stops built into travel, it makes the journey less appealing to take by bike. It also results in some people refusing to stop, adding unpredictability to cyclist behavior. At T intersections, where no car movement would ever interfere with the movements in a bike lane, stoppage requirements should not be present for cyclists. Railroad crossings can serve as a dangerous threat for cyclists if they are not designed properly. Crossings should be designed to allow cyclists to cross the tracks in a perpendicular movement. It is best to ensure that there are small gaps and the track remains covered so bike tires do not get stuck. Intersections should offer protected space for pedestrians and cyclists to cross. Oftentimes, cyclists dismount their bikes, thereby turning into pedestrians to cross a busy road. The presence of a median creates a safe method for people to easily cross the street. Bike boxes are also a great way to maintain order and safety for cyclists at intersections. Cyclists are able to move to the front of the queue at a red light, increasing their visibility and making left turns easier. Separating bicycles from buses is very beneficial to cyclist safety and comfort. Buses that stop in bike lanes to allow passengers to get on and off create a massive impediment for cyclists. Bikes either need to wait behind a bus or enter traffic lanes to move around it. A better design alternative is to have the buses stop in traffic lanes, leaving the bike lane clear and creating a stop bar for cyclists so they know to yield to pedestrians. This keeps uses separate while establishing order. The best type of design separates the uses completely, so the conflict is eliminated. Ensuring that bikes are accommodated at transit stops is important, especially because the two forms of transportation can be paired together so easily. It is important to make sure there are places to lock bikes at transit centers and the areas are accessible if bikes need to be taken through a station or a stop. Thank you for watching. For further information, please consult IPA's Low Stress Bikeability Toolkit at completecommunitiesde.org. This project was developed by Kirsten Jones, Marcia Scott, and BJ DeCourcy of the Institute for Public Administration. Funding was provided by DelDOT with support from the Office of State Planning Coordination.